All right, we are live. Good morning, team. Welcome to our very first inaugural Flex Friday here at Blueprint to Blue Chip. What we're going to do is just basically, Erin and I had this great idea this week to just kind of recap what the current events have happened in the landscape of sports. And nothing is off limits here. And we have last week, if you joined us, we had George Wilmore, who we had a webinar. We talked basically about NIL and everything college related, transfer portal, et cetera. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to turn this into a 15, 20-minute segment. Just a great way to end your week and start your weekend. So hopefully we get super controversial, or you won't need coffee or pre-workout. We'll just get you fired up. So,
Yeah.
I want to thank my co-founder, Erin, for joining us, and George Wilmore. And I'm not going to steal their thunder. I'm going to let them tell you a little bit about who they are. But in breaking news, we just found out in good NIL and transfer portal, North Carolina just got put out. 3 of the guys have already transferred to Arizona, so they should be playing tonight. That's how the transfer portal works. So
That's what it seems like.
We already started transferring, so Arizona just picked up 3 new starters. I'm saying that tongue-in-cheek, but it is the wild, wild west right now. And why did I bring up Arizona? Go Cats. That's my school. So I'm going to turn it over to Erin. Erin, go ahead. Tell them a little bit about yourself, and then I'll move to George and have George tell the audience about him. And then we'll come back to you, Erin, for your first topic.
Sure. So I'm Erin. First and foremost, I'm a mom. I'm a sports mom. I have 2 high school athletes. For those that joined us last night, I have an update on the score. We, in fact, did lose. Brighton softball, not a winner last night. Lost 17-4. So tough game for the girls, but it's fun to watch my daughter just work through all the ups and downs of high school sports. So fun softball season, great weather in Utah. So, and then I'm obviously the co-founder with Thomas of Blueprint to Blue Chip, and we're here to just bring greatness back into athletic sports by helping these young athletes develop great character. So excited to be here with you both.
Right on. George, the floor is yours. Tell us a little bit about you, who you are, and what you do.
Absolutely. I'm George Wilmore. I am a former college basketball coach, was coaching for 11 years at a Division II Fairmont State, and then for 6 years at NAIA school called West Virginia Tech. Was the head coach there for 3 years. Enjoyed my time as a coach, met a lot of people, did a lot of things, accomplished a lot of things, but I wanted something bigger. I wanted something bigger for myself. So now I am in the NIL agency space with aspirations and dreams of becoming a FIBA and NBA agent. So I'm working towards that as well. So just being in the platform to help young men and women show them the path of what it takes to become a college athlete, what it takes to become a professional, because they need more positive people in their lives outside of their parents. And I want to just, make sure that they know the hard truth, give them all the ins and outs from recruiting, what it looks like as an NIL prospective athlete, and just give them the hard truth from A to Z. So appreciate you guys for, just giving me this platform, allowing me to show you guys the ins and outs of everything.
Awesome. Appreciate it, George. Thanks for joining us, Coach. Erin, ladies first, we're going to start off with you. Is there a current topic? You mentioned something off camera, and I said, hold on. Let's bring it to the floor. So what's on your mind?
What comes to mind coming out of my great state of Utah here is that the BYU Cougars lost in the first round to the Texas Longhorns. So not that I'm a diehard BYU fan, but I think so don't hate me in Utah and go Utes, I guess. I don't know who to cheer for in this state. But I think in the space that we play in, I guess my question that I'd love for us to talk about is there a Cinderella team? And I know that they have, I'm not going to say the kid's name right. So George, please chime in who they think might be the number 1 overall draft pick from Utah or BYU.
Mm-hmm. AJ DeBasa.
Yeah. These teams are spending exorbitant amounts of money and you're not going anywhere in the tournament. I guess becomes a question. So like, are schools going to buy themselves to a championship? Like I think NIL revenue share collectives doing to the landscape of college sports?
That's a good question. We talked about this yesterday. I saw it on SportsCenter, and I do think NIL has changed the landscape of sports. But you got to let's talk about the BYU in Texas game. Like, Texas is still in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Like, Texas is still Texas at the end of the day. Like, they're pumping in money just like BYU is. You know, you look at their record, they were, I think, 20-13 coming into this game versus BYU, who were 16th in the country. But it's still, at the end of the day, Texas is going to have some really, really good players. Texas had a grueling schedule, first year head coach, so I'm not going to consider BYU versus Texas as an upset. I'm looking more towards like the VCU over North Carolina. I'm looking at High Point over Wisconsin. Like, those two teams are the teams that you can kind of sit back and say, all right, yes, they are getting NIL, but I'm sure High Point's a beautiful campus. Like, I saw them play Winthrop. I went to that game, and their campus is beautiful. You know, it will be hard if someone comes to campus at High Point. It will be hard for them to say no. But at the same time, look at Wisconsin, who's in the Big Ten. They have way more NIL revenue sharing money than High Point. But it comes down in the NCAA tournament to matchups. Like, who has the best matchup? And if in order for you to be considered a Cinderella, you have to have an experienced team. We talked about the Indiana football team. You know, their average age was 24 compared to the Raiders' average age was 23. So it's more of like, when I hear Cinderella team, I think about the teams that have been together for a longer period of time versus someone who's a freshman. You know, yes, AJ was getting, $9 million, $10 million, but he still was a freshman. He still was still an 18, 19-year-old freshman. Yes, he's going to be a great NBA player, hopefully. But if you're going into an environment where you have, 22, 23-year-old players, they're able to, scheme a little bit. Now it becomes harder. And if you have one player who is getting $9 million and you have the other players who's only getting like 20, how are you going to recruit versus a Texas who they can give, guys $2 million each? Wow. So it's a little different. But as far as Cinderellas, even though VCU has been a great program since Shaka Smart was there, I've maybe considered them as a Cinderella, High Point as a Cinderella. I had Troy in my bracket as a potential Cinderella. Obviously they lost to Nebraska, but I think you can still see those Cinderella teams because there's great coaches in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I think we saw that even yesterday with Duke in it.
Right.
And
they were losing to Siena by 11.
Yeah. They were getting outcoached and outplayed, period. I mean, I think Duke came in thinking, oh, we got this in the bag. And I think they got a nice little gut check and wake-up call.
Absolutely.
And I think it also, like, I look at programs like Duke, they're, for the most part, constantly is in a state of reloading. It's not even necessarily recruiting because that team is not the same team that was in the NCAA tournament a year ago. And so every year to your point, it's not like the Duke of the 90s where you saw Christian Laettner, Grant Hill, like in multiple years back to back to see that progression. It's like it's a brand new team literally every year.
Yeah. And they did shoot 19% from three. But wow. to your point, they did come out flat. And I do think they overlooked Siena because they were the 16th seed.
Yeah.
Well,
And then
it's also nerves, right? It's the first round, and and Duke is going to try and play Duke basketball, and Siena is. They realize that the probability of them winning is low, so they're just going to go lights out. And then and at the end, coaching and experience always takes over. So George and Erin, I wasn't aware that is his name AJ at.
Yes.
I wasn't aware he was getting $9 million a year. What incentive does he have to go to the NBA? Just for bragging rights to say he's the first pick in the first round? Because in yesteryear, players always wanted to go on to college or from college to pros to make money. But if you're making $9 million a year, what's the incentive to go pro when you're making that type of money in college?
So I don't quite think, I don't know if it's 9 million, but it's up there. It is definitely up there. But as a competitor, I mean, the NBA is the best league in the world.
Sure.
Growing up, you always want to be a professional basketball player. I'm sure everyone has a story of them at the park, 10, 9, 8, counting down, shooting that game-winning shot. You're in the NBA, the crowd is going, wow. If you miss it, you're playing, oh, he got fouled. So that's, as a competitor, you want to compete at the highest level. I'm sure when you were a football player, you wanted to compete at the highest level. And so even though you're getting revenue sharing money, whether it's $1 million, whether it's $9 million, $10 million, you still want to be the best of the best. And
Sure.
So, yes, he's going to be, if he never plays basketball again, if he puts his money in right situations, he will never have to work again.
Right.
But at the same time, like, you want to be in the Hall of Fame. Like, I'm sure he has goals to be the best that he can be moving forward.
Awesome. So with the NIL change in the landscape, something we're talking about off camera is what incentive do college coaches have to go after high school athletes when they could just cherry pick from the transfer portal or go overseas, or now we could start pulling guys out of the G League, right? And something I mentioned off camera was, back in the 90s, my brother Matt was a high school All-American left tackle, was a true starting freshman at 19. And Erin, to your point about BYU, he was playing against a BYU, a very stacked Lavelle Edwards team where the defensive end was 24 or 25 years old against Matt because he was on a Mormon mission. And Matt made a comment, this guy should be playing on Sunday as opposed to Saturday. So my question is, what incentives do college coaches have now that the pressure to win right away? Why go after high school athletes when you could just go into the portal or go overseas or cherry pick out of the G League?
I would not want to be a high major coach right now because there's so much stress.
Yeah.
So much stress. I think Pat Kelsey at Louisville was the first one to kind of test the G League market. So he's kind of set the trend to bring in non-NBA roster guys. And the incentives, unless you're like a top 100, top 150 high school player, it's going to be hard for you to find a position to be successful at the high major, even mid-major levels.
Yeah.
Because some of these mid-major teams are getting the high major Division I players that may be the 7th, 8th man on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they're on this Division I team. They could be getting like 5 to 6 points a game, only getting maybe 15 minutes a game, 14 minutes a game. They're not happy with their playing. They're not happy with their role on that specific team. They may get bumped down to, I'm not going to say bumped down because playing Division I basketball is a privilege, but they may go down to maybe a mid-major team and go kill it. And they have one more year. They may go to the NCAA tournament, and now they have one more year. They may be able to go back to a high major Division I program. And so the incentive is it just kind of shortens the window, and it's putting more pressure on these AAU programs. It's putting more pressure on the high school coaches to develop these high school players. And it's putting maybe a dark cloud on, development, because there's so many. I've gone to so many high school practices and AAU practices where these kids are not getting developed.
Right.
And now it's going to put more pressure on a high school coach to develop their players for them to get to a higher level. Because if you're not coming in and you're not making an immediate impact, a high major coach is going to get maybe a junior college transfer, a Division I transfer, like you said, someone overseas, because the overseas game is quickly growing. As you can see, there's so many international players getting drafted now. And so the window of opportunity for a lot of high school kids is shortening. And so they're going to have to make sure that their T's are crossed and their I's are dotted to stay ahead of the game.
No question. No question. Erin, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think George nailed it spot on. And I think it just highlights, I think, the opportunity for these coaches with the younger athletes, that you have to really up your game, and what are the skills, that you're using to develop them. And we work in partnership with a couple people overseas. And, I think the opportunity we have to bring back here to America is that skill development, the very basics, to get them really good at that. Because I think that's what European basketball is focused on. And I think they're going to quickly outpace the United States if we don't work on just the basics. It's funny how we think, like, when you see the miraculous shots and stuff, but it comes down to their basic skills and doing them better than everybody else. And so are the coaches focused on that, regardless of what the kids want. So having two kids, I had a son that played baseball. For a brief stint, I coached the basketball team in second or third grade. I don't remember what age. But yeah, they just want to play basketball. And it's like, well, how about we focus on dribbling and shooting and layups and just really basic fundamentals. And the kids just want to look like they're out playing an NBA game all the time and shooting fancy shots. And it's like, you're 8 years old or 9 years old. Like, let's focus on this. So they revolted against me. They didn't have a really good time with me because I wanted to focus on the basics. Let's shoot some free throws and stuff like that.
And it's crazy because, the international game, they teach all those little small details, like something as simple as pivoting, something as simple as, the when to cut, and I call the AAU offense the do him offense, because all they're going to do is just pass it around, dribble, weave until they try to get a switch on someone who really can't guard. And you'll hear the coach, oh, do him, go by him. And then that doesn't really translate to real basketball.
Right.
Like, when you're going against a real defense, people are going to be sitting in the gaps, and they're going to make the person with the ball make a play. And if you're not able to, have those fundamentals and see the game, it makes it even more difficult. And so I think the international game, and I'm not like bashing American basketball, we have the best athletes. It's more of like the coaching aspect of it. We're just relying on our athleticism to get by, and it's slowly creeping up on us. I still think USA basketball will be the best of the best for a very long time, but it's going to be even more competitive, and you see it like in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Well, when they should be blowing them out.
Yeah, well, we could talk about NIL and the transfer portal all day long. We can make an entire episode about that. But by the time Monday rolls around, the rules will change and everything. Something I'm super excited about, and I want to get your take on it, is women's flag football. It's starting to make some noise. We hear about it in the Olympics coming up. My question is women's flag football, is that a fad, or is it here to stay? Erin, we'll start with you.
I think it's going to be here to stay. I think there's a new surge in women's athletics, and I think we can thank lovely individuals like a Caitlin Clark that I think start to bring that energy to women's sports. And so I think, if women are we're becoming increasingly athletic. I do still see it again. I have a daughter that plays softball. Sometimes we look like great, and other times it's like, God, we look like, I say this tongue in cheek, kind of like girls. It's like, what are we doing? Like,
Right.
throw it, not like a girl. So, I think that as women become more athletic, they develop their bodies. I think the training, the control, people are going to want to watch it. I mean, women's basketball got incredibly popular the last several years because of the athleticism. It's never going to be played at the speed or the physicality of men. But I think there's a lot of exciting things to come for women's sports. You're seeing it with the professional softball league. I mean, watching college softball to me is like one of the best things to watch because those girls are so dialed in, so top notch. It's pretty close to what, baseball would be. So I think it's going to be here to stay. And it's cool to see the sport, the colleges starting to bring it in as a sport, getting it sanctioned. So I think it's here to stay.
Awesome. George, what are your thoughts?
I totally agree. I've seen so many, like I'll go to different schools and I'll see a lot of women's flag football practices. And those girls, they get after it. Like it's so fun to watch them. I was at Providence High School here in Charlotte a few weeks ago, just meeting with a track coach, and maybe 50 yards down the field, I saw a flag football practice, and those girls, they were aggressive, and it was good to see. But women's sports has progressed so much. I think kind of maybe Serena Williams started the trend. Obviously Simone Biles, obviously Caitlin Clark, Asia Wilson, those type of players like Asia, she's killing it. She's killing the game. Like she leads the WNBA in so many statistical categories. It's fun to watch them. It's fun to see how like the WNBA has progressed. It's fun to see how college, softball has progressed, and it's going to just get even better. Because the more training these female athletes get, the better they're going to become. And I feel like they take the game a little more serious than some of the boys athletes. So for instance, when I train girls basketball players, they're more dialed into the teachings than some of the boys players. Like it's not like that all the time, but 70% of the time, like they're coming in, they're focused, they know what they need to do. It's no BS, and they get better.
Yeah, I think it's an exciting time. I think it's here to stay too, and I eventually see women's flag football turning into a co-ed league as well, where we have, I don't know if you have 4-on-4 or 5-on-5, whatever it is, and you have to roster 2 women and 3 guys, whatever it might be. But I really think if the NCAA is listening right now, this is something that Erin and I talked about. Take any university like the University of Arizona that has 30,000 undergrad or more. If you were to have at least 5 or 6 teams of women's flag football, how great would it be for these women to have the opportunity to play before a home football game, right? Before Arizona, just maybe an hour or 2 before kickoff. You have a built-in audience, and if you're out there tailgating, why wouldn't you come in and support the women, right? I mean, it would be a great opportunity. So I think that's a great opportunity and for the NCAA to build good rapport with women's athletic and to support it, because I just don't see where it's going to take off unless the college programs really get behind it and push and incentivize them to come on out and play. There's one thing for the competitive side, but I also think it's a great way to support women's athletics. So it should be super interesting. Well, we're closing in on 25 minutes. I know we said we want to keep it about 20 minutes. If there's anything pressing that you guys want to address, go ahead and bring it up. If not, Erin, we'll go ahead and close it out with you, then George, and then I'll take us home.
Well, I mean, chime in. What do you want us to talk about? We'll bring it to the table next week. We like to see what's in the news, what's the topics, and I'm sure we're going to keep talking about basketball till we crown the national champion here in a couple weeks. So, no, this was a great way to kick off our new series on on Fridays.
Yep. George, what you got?
There are still Cinderellas.
Okay.
Cinderellas. You know, like I said, even though I'm a Winthrop alumni and High Point beat my Winthrop Eagles, I still have to root for them because they're my Big South fellow champions. And one of my good coaching buddies, Delano Thomas, he was at Shawnee State, won a national championship there. Now he's at High Point. So go Panthers.
Right on. I love it. I love it. Erin and George, thanks for joining us, team. Well, a lot of you probably have already torn up your bracket with North Carolina losing yesterday.
Yep.
Trust me, it's not over because tonight there's going to be some upsets, and I pray that it's not Arizona. We're number one seed. But we have notorious under other coaches with Sean Miller and Lute Olson that we would make it to the tournament and we would just hit some speed bumps and some Cinderellas. So I do agree with George. There are definitely some Cinderellas left. Hopefully it's not who's playing Arizona tonight. But let's you know what, George, if you're around next week, you know, we're going to have more basketball to talk about. There's going to be a ton of upsets by then, and there's going to be a ton of current events. So George, if you're around next week, let's do it again. Erin, if you're around next week, do it again. And let's, friends, so go ahead and tell your friends. And also, you know, chime in, drop some comments in that you think that we should address. And, you know, as opposed to just the three of us talking about things, we would love to make it interactive. Have you guys ask us some questions, bring up some current events, and even drop that in the chat. We'll be happy to talk about that. So until next week, team, have a fantastic rest of your day, Friday, and have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.
Bye, you guys.
Have a good one.